Remind me again, why do you believe in God? Just the short summary, please.
It's always tough to put it into sound bites, but if I must, I would say first the argument from consciousness, second the argument from first cause, and third the argument from morality. Taken together, these are good reasons to believe in God.
I thought you would say that. But you didn't really answer my question. I didn't ask for good reasons to believe in God. I asked why you believe in God.
Well, there are many arguments for God's existence. The ones I mentioned are the most convincing to me personally. Other people may have other reasons.
You're still misinterpreting my question. So I will answer it for you. The reason you believe in God is not based on any argument at all. You believe in God simply because your parents did.
Oh, so that's what you meant. Does that imply you do not believe in God because your parents did not believe?
No, in my case my parents did believe in God. I do not because that is the conclusion that reason demanded. And I was bold enough to accept it.
I see. So would you make of someone who believed in God but whose parents did not? Why do they believe?
I don't know. Fear of death, longing for community, something like that.
So if I understand you right, if someone agrees with you on something, they used reason to reach their conclusions, but if not, then there is some other explanation at work. In other words, your reason is infallible.
I didn't exactly say that.
No, but it is what you implied. Unless your own personal use of reason is infallible, it is premature to discuss why someone else is wrong by bringing in motivations or biases. You have to establish why they are wrong on the merits of the argument itself. Whether my parents believe in God or not is not relevant to the question of whether God exists. Do you agree?
Technically, yes, I suppose so. But I have already decided that I'm right about God's non-existence. It is natural for me to look for reasons why you draw the wrong conclusion.
Sure. But you cannot expect those reasons to convince someone else. I mean, I have in my own mind plenty of possible explanations why you drew the wrong conclusion.
Such as?
Fear of losing freedom, fear of looking silly, or not wanting those you enjoy looking down on as fools to be your equals in any sense.
None of these apply to me. My non-belief is based on a rational assessment of the lack of evidence.
Nobody thinks that their beliefs are based on their biases. That is why it is pointless to argue about the biases, and more productive to stick to the merits of the arguments involved.
But the biases are so strong, they determine people's opinions.
Factors such as parents' beliefs do have significant predictive power, but they do not explain all the differences in belief.
Must be some huge percentage, though.
According to the most direct study of this that I've seen, parental religious beliefs, together with several other parental socioeconomic factors, explain 31% of the variance in the beliefs of their adult children. If you take into account the person's own socioeconomic factors as an adult, 49% is explained. There is still a lot of room left for independent thought.
I doubt the study measured everything.
Of course it did not measure everything. Besides the easily measurable factors, each of us has been influenced by the people we have met, life experiences we have had, and books that we came across. I am not disagreeing with you on that. Had life been different for me, I might have believed differently. So might you. All I am suggesting is that looking at the biases people bring to a question is not a useful way of getting at the truth.
I get that. But doesn't this mean that no one can be held accountable for what he chooses to believe, or how he chooses to act?
If we were ultimately robots, with 100% of our behavior beyond our control, then yes. I don't believe that to be the case, as we've discussed in another video. But given that a high percentage of our differences can be explained by various factors, I do think we all need to refrain from sitting in judgment of those with whom we disagree, or taking too much credit for what we think are our own right beliefs or right actions.
This doesn't sound like a typical Christian position.
Well, it is true that you'll sometimes hear a Christian pass judgment on someone for their non-belief or their sin. Organized religion holds a certain appeal for those who like to see themselves as part of a favored group. But to be fair, You see this kind of behavior from atheists too, or members of a political party, or even sports fans. People take great pride in seeing themselves as right and someone else as wrong. However, genuine Christianity rejects the idea of judging others, and warns us against pride.
How so?
Well, in the Gospels themselves, we find Jesus calling us not to judge one another at all. Matthew 7, verses 1 to 5. We also find the suggestions that God's judgment does not hold everyone to the same level, but relative to whatever light they had in their conscience. Luke 12 verses 47 to 48. We also find that what God really wants from us is a humble heart and a focus on our own shortcomings, not a self-righteous attitude towards others. Luke 18 verses 9 to 14. The epistles also contain numerous references to conscience. In more recent times, C.S. Lewis explored these ideas. Mere Christianity Book 3 Chapter 4 is a very insightful treatment of them.
So if Christians are not supposed to judge, and if God judges people differently, does this imply that all morality is relative?
No. I believe there is objectively such a thing as right and wrong, and that all of us possess some faculty to know it. But we may possess different degrees of wisdom in applying it, and different degrees of willpower in fighting particular temptations. God is fair and just and will take all of these into account.
It sounds sort of like a round of golf. A low score is objectively better than a high one. But people are compared to their handicap.
That is a pretty good analogy.
But why does God judge us at all?
That is more mysterious. I do not see God's judgment as an end to itself. God is love and judges us like a parent. The goal of judgment is reformation and sincere repentance, not punishment. We will be judged fairly, like in a courtroom, if that is what we insist upon, but there is a better route available.
What could be better than being judged fairly?
If we reflect honestly on how we actually live our lives, as compared to the full moral standard of the Golden Rule, the idea of being judged fairly will be discomforting. We should rejoice at the path of grace that Jesus offers us, of throwing ourselves upon His mercy and forgiving others, thus receiving forgiveness ourselves.